Hello and welcome to the Knock On KCLR and Scoreline.ie's weekly rugby podcast. I'm Stephen Byrne. We're joined by Tom Crotty, James Blanchfield and Paddy Browne, as we are every week. Lads, how's it going?
Very good.
Stephen, how are you doing?
Gentlemen.
We're
enjoying the rain. We're enjoying the rain here in Ireland, aren't we, Tom and Stephen?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm enjoying the sunshine here in the Algarve, so not sticking anybody or anything.
Can you not put a background on that shows grey clouds and rain, please?
The palm trees are blowing in the wind. I noticed that, all right.
Now a dull picture of the Black Gates or something, Paddy.
Yeah, now you said it.
What temperature are you talking over there at the moment, Paddy?
It has been quite bad the last few days. It was very wet, but it's 25 today. Gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
It's nice. Yeah.
Take that. Lads, we're here to talk rugby, of course. Plenty of action happened at the weekend. Paddy, we're going to start with you in Leinster League Division 1A. Suttonians were your opposition at the weekend. It didn't go according to plan.
No, unfortunately, and a fourth loss on the trot. So our bad season, our bad start to the season continues. There's no doubt about that. Suttonians, I just named the team there first that we had out. We had a full back was Tyg Walsh. The wingers were Ryan O'Neill and Jack Hanlon, and centres were Adam Johnson and Ryan Jordan. So it was good to see Adam Johnson back for his first game, and he did make a difference, as I'll talk about in a moment. Jamie Cooper was out half, and Gareth Fitzgerald was scrum half. The front row was Scott Callback, Daniel Culleton, and Tom Cashin. Martin Cole and Jack MacDonald were in the second row. And the back row was Fiacre Byrne, Steve Smith and Tyg McCarthy-Griffin. So it was good to have Steve back as well, and you played the full 80 minutes, and good to have Adam back. You know, when you look at that lineup, you know, it's not too far off full strength. We're only missing, I'd say, a couple of people at this stage. So that's not the reason we're not winning games. I don't know what it is. The subs were Brian Keogh, Pat Hickey, William Bryan and Dara Cogan. And the Joe Waters, of course, and the 46-year-old Joe Waters still tugging out. And to give a special mention to Joe, because he is fundraising at the moment to go out to South Africa to work on the Mellon project. The Mellon Educates out there. So he's a great man. His uncle did it before him, and he's doing that in the near future. So that was the team, and as I say, a quite experienced team. Suttonians started much faster than Tullow did, and they exposed us out wide. Very much so, and that's where a lot of the damage was done. Their wingers and backs were running around us. They went 20-0 up, 28-0 up before we came to life at all. So it was a really bad start. The half-time score was 35-7. We did improve towards the end of the first half and into the second half, and we got 3 tries. 2 from Adam Johnson and 1 from William Bryan. Who came on as a sub. Adam Johnson converted the 3 tries. So if we want to take some bit of comfort from the match was the improvement we made, and when we did tighten up our defence. But still, it's a bad win. Now I wasn't at the match obviously, but I'm told that we should have got a 4-try bonus point. We were held up over the line 3 times, and on one of those occasions we knocked the ball over the line. So we wouldn't have gone anywhere near to winning the match, but we certainly would have been hopeful to get a losing bonus point maybe. So that's the story. We'll talk about next week later on, but I mean we would be hoping that the big local derby with our great friends and neighbours Carlow next Saturday will raise up the ante a little bit for both teams. It's definitely badly needed from a Tullow point of view. And I think part of the problem too is that we didn't have a seconds team out last week. We did get seconds teams out for our first 2 matches, but we've struggled to get a seconds team out the last couple of weeks, and that's not a good state of affairs. So because the seconds definitely do help the first and keep the pressure on the first. So we certainly will be hoping to get a seconds team out against Carlow next week. So that's on the adult side. The women's side, our AIL women had no match last week after losing to Cook in Belfast the previous week. But it was a big weekend for women's rugby in Tullow, in that it was for the first time ever we got a seconds team out. and they travelled away to Clondalkin. And I was reminded by Jack Carroll that incidentally Tullow's first ever women's match was in 2009, was against Clondalkin, and they beat us 73-3. Last on Saturday, our seconds team, for the first time ever, played Clondalkin again away, and they won 78-14. So that was a huge win. But even more importantly, to get a seconds adult women's team out was a very significant milestone for the club. The team was made up of a few retirees who came back, which was great to see, the likes of Claire Nolan and Helen O'Brien, and then a lot of very young girls who came up from the 18s last year. So it was a nice mixture of experience and youth, and it was a big day for them. So they are, as I said, the first ladies are playing Ballincollig next Saturday, and it's going to be a big day in the club, as I think I mentioned last week. Hopefully we'll have a seconds team out playing Carlow at 1 o'clock, and the first are playing at 3 o'clock. And then the AIL ladies are playing Ballincollig also in Tullow at 5 p.m. So we're hoping for a bumper crowd and a good atmosphere on the day. On the youth side then, I just wanted to mention, I was talking to Cora, my sister, who's out here with me at the moment, and she was sort of asked me to call out Ciara Kinch. Cora's been away for a while, and Ciara has taken over the duties as first team manager. And it is an onerous task in AIL because you have to provide a fourth official in the AIL, which is not the case in junior rugby. And Ciara has been really working hard in a number of roles as team manager and fourth official and all of that. So just to note Ciara's, and I know Tom often mentions Ciara because she's so involved with the Rhinos as well, but she's a Trojan working for the club and was a top class player up the time she stopped playing 2 years ago. So the youth side with a bit of a mixed bag. With the under 13 boys beat Arklow 19-7. The under 14 boys beat Tullamore 45-34. The under 14 Rhinos lost to Wicklow 38-22. The under 15 boys beat Enniscorthy 48-35. And the under 16 boys beat Balbriggan 38-21. The under 16 Rhinos lost 36-7 to Tullamore. The under 18 boys in a very tight game to another Premier club, Portlaoise. We lost 36-30 to Portlaoise. Our A under 18 boys got a walkover from Kilkenny, and I think James mentioned last week, coincidentally, that the trouble that there's so many Europeans still involved in hurling, and I think that reflected that situation. The under 18 Rhinos lost 34-38 to New Ross. So the girls didn't do quite as well as the lads, but the lads won all but one of their games, so it was a good return. That's more or less it from Tullow. I just wanted to mention a guy who you'll be interested, Stephen, in this. Jimmy Fitzgerald used to play with Tullow back in the day, and he was a great scrum half in his day and part of the Fitzgerald rugby dynasty in Tullow. And he texted me last week after the thing, and he said after the podcast, listening to it, and he said he loves it, and he wanted to thank all of us for keeping him informed on the other side of the globe in Sydney. And he wanted you to mention Tom Crotty too. He says you're a sound man, Tom. However you know that, I don't know. But anyway, it was interesting to get to hear that nice message all the way from Sydney. So that's it from Tullow.
Good stuff, Paddy. Great stuff. Pity about the results, but yeah, a big weekend to look forward to. We'll talk about the big derby towards the end of the podcast. We'll just go through the bits and pieces first, I suppose. So who do we move on to now? So we're going to James there, Kilkenny. James, you were in action and another loss there again. It was Wanderers this time.
Yeah, it's hard to put our finger on it. We're 21 points to nil down after half an hour on the clock, half-time score, 21-7. It's very hard to put the finger on it because we lined out with quite a strong team. Like Tullow, if you looked at our team on paper, there's probably no way we should be beaten, but we were beaten, and a lot of kind of inquests kind of going on now at the moment as to what the problem is, and probably don't believe that it's coaching. I believe the belief in the club is that the coaching is spot on. That and when I'm saying this, I'm taking nothing away from Wexford because they were super. They were great value for their win. But when we had such dominance that we had up front, and I mean absolute dominance, Wexford apparently, I wasn't there now, but Wexford didn't take one of their own lineouts, and we stole the majority of them or disrupted most of them. We won most of the scrums, and like Mullingar again, we won most of the forward exchanges. But it's that gelling of the team together. I mean, our starting team was Brian Howe, Ben Devlin, and Josh Evans in the front row, Andrew Warner, Jake Colbeck in the second row, and a back row of Joe Manuel, Johnny Young, and Gary Dunn. Steve Atkinson, Dan O'Neill were the out half, 9 and 10. Kieran Smith O'Neill was on one wing, Jeff Powers on the other wing, Wes Carter was in the centre with Newan Rossetti, and Axel Montgomery was full back. On the bench, we had Conan Dunn, Charlie Buckley, David O'Connor, Aaron Askins, and Caleb Hogan-Air. So, quite a strong team. If you were to say who'd be coming back in there, you'd probably be saying, yeah, Podge Mahan was out injured. Jack Campion, now the Bennis Bridge are knocked out of the hurling championship. Jack will be back. Jack has signed for us this year, thankfully. He was Senior Cup out half at Kilkenny College last year. And Dave O'Connor is kind of coming back. Bino McDonald has to come back into the mix as well. But on paper, it was a very strong Kilkenny team, and it's just very disjointed, the performances at the moment. Discipline was an issue again for us. A couple of yellow cards. Now, I don't like giving out about referees, but referee was probably very, very tough on both teams. I think there was 5 yellow cards and a red card in the game. Were all of them merited? Probably not. I know some of the Wexford people were quite aggravated by it as well. We kept our powder dry and kind of stayed back from any of that. But when you have 5 yellow cards and a red card in a game, there's something just not right. That brings our tally for yellow cards in 3 games up to 7. So discipline is an issue, and we need to fix that. But as a whole, we just need to maybe, as Jimmy McGarry said at a committee meeting on Monday night, Danny McAvoy used to play scrum half for us, and he said if Danny McAvoy was scrum half, he'd have no problems because he just wouldn't give the ball to the backs, But I don't think the back play is the issue. I don't think that our backs are poor. I just think the issue is that the team aren't gelling well together. So we have a big task this week now, welcoming Boyne down, and I'll talk about that at the back end of this. But we need to be very much on point for Boyne coming. Positively, and it's not all negatives. Kind of Dave O'Connor was back now for his first game of the season. He was back. He was introduced on the bench and did quite well. As I said, the forwards were all exceptional. Just need to get that kind of continuity in our back line going. So it's not all negative, and I don't want people to think that I'm just being negative for the sake of it. There's a lot of positives to work on as well. Our seconds had a good win as well, so that's another good thing. And our women had a disappointing loss as well to Wexford. So it was a triple header, Kilkenny and kind of Wexford or Southeast Lions down there last week. So look, we'll be hoping that all teams can bounce back this weekend and that our seconds can keep things moving in the positive way. So kind of their 2 wins from 3 now went down poorly to Gorey last week. But I know John Buckley will be happy with how the seconds are progressing for him. In youths rugby, was a very mixed bag last weekend. I suppose now that we're kind of into Leinster League, the quality of opposition goes up a little bit for us as well. So we need to be aware of that. But our under 13 boys lost out to New Ross on Friday night. Our under 16 girls lost to Enniscorthy. Our under 15 boys lost to Mullingar, which is tough for under 15 boys because they had been going so well. They had a very close game at Portlaoise the week before, and I think before that, they went 2 or 3 games unbeaten in the southeast. So that coaching unit of Lee Selman, Paddy Phelan, Pat Holden, and Simon Manuel will be turning stones over this week to make sure that the lads are ready. The under 14 girls beat Mullingar, which is brilliant. That's their first win of the season away to Mullingar as well. Joe Manuel, Derek Lawler, Jenny Kerwin, all deserve kudos there, and thanks to Mags Irish as well, who travelled to Mullingar with the team last week because Derek and Jenny were unavailable. The under 16 boys drew away to Navan in what by all accounts was an absolute cracking game, a brilliant game of rugby. I think it was 16 all. That's a really good team, and a team that we will be kind of hoping to see a good cohort of them move through to adult rugby at the club. So look, it was a cracking game. The management were disappointed that they and they kind of made a point to make made it known to make a point of this during the week. They were disappointed not to get more subs on in that game, but I suppose last year when they played Navan, they were beaten by a hockey score out the gate, and this year it was a tight game, so they wanted to get something out of it. So unfortunately, they couldn't make many substitutions, and they kind of send their apologies to some of the players who didn't get on. But look, that's the game. Unfortunately, as I said, our women's lost away to the Southeast Lions. Our under-18 boys had a massive win against Tullamore. Really big win against Tullamore. Coaching team there of Gary Corcoran, Sean O'Boyle and Barry Daly deserve a lot of credit for the work that they're doing. It hasn't been easy for the under-18 so far for a team that we thought would have about 45, 46 players. They've been struggling for players at the moment. But the minor championship Kilkenny ended the weekend, so that's saw a couple of players come back as well. Big performers for the 18s there on the day was Dan Ring, Rory O'Carroll and Killian McElwee. They'd be the three guys who would be all up to age on that team, and three really good rugby players. As I said, our J2s won and our J1s lost away. So look at them, very, very, very mixed bag. But I think it was 9 games in total with 3 or 4 wins and 1 draw, and the rest were losses. So lots to work on. The game of the week was the under-18s over Tullamore. They won on a scoreline of 54 points to 29. And as I mentioned there a minute ago, that coaching team deserve a lot of credit. It's not an easy one managed, because kind of players are coming in and coming out, and minor hurling and so forth has been a distraction. But thankfully, that's out of the way now. Our under 12 girls attended the Aviva Blitz down in Dungarvan, and they had a great day down there as well. So everyone had fun, and thanks to Dungarvan Rugby Club for hosting that. Our sponsor of the week is Lahart's Volkswagen, or Lahart's Garage, selling Volkswagen Skoda. We thank them for their support to the club. Looking ahead to this week, very, 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 very tough game coming up against our bogey team in Boyne, coming to Kilkenny. We struggle against Boyne quite frequently, and we're going to need to be very, very on point to play them this week. We need to take our learnings from the last week's game and bring them forward into it. It'll be interesting to see what kind of team is picked. But it's just going to take a monumental effort for first 15 against Boyne. I think they've probably put 20, 30 points on us the last 2 years they've come to Kilkenny. They have an electric back line. They have the guy there, the Leinster Junior fullback, Duffy. They have a couple of very good centres, the new Ross guy, Robbie Valio. Very strong pack. So it's a big test for us. We have to front up. Our seconds, no doubt, will give it everything they have. And our women's team are away to Greystones on Sunday as well. So best luck to all of the teams that are out this weekend. And we hope we just start getting a bit of momentum going together now.
Good stuff, James. Yeah, it's not as positive a start as some of the seasons have been on the knock on, particularly for all the teams. We know we've been in completely different situations over the last few seasons, but you just, like you said, James, hard to put your finger on with some things because you have all the right plans in place, and then it just doesn't happen on the field, and it's hard to
these things
pick it
are
apart.
cyclical as well. I mean, things go around in circles. Like
Yeah.
We'd love to be where Tullow and Carlow are up in 1A. We're not. They're probably Tullow and Carlow particularly are probably on a bit of a tough run at the moment, and you can't doubt players. Like players, they're giving it their all. They're coming out there 2 nights a week training. They're going to the gym a couple of times a week. Coaches are doing the same. Like, I mean, you can't doubt commitment. You can't doubt anything. Are the opposition better prepared? Are the opposition just better teams than us? Does the opposition have momentum in their favour? So, I mean, there's a lot of things that
I think you put your finger on it, James, a second ago. These things are cyclical by nature, so like you can't stay on the top end of the cycle.
Yeah, this is it. Like, and all clubs have their day in the sun. Like, if you look at Enniscorthy up there in Division 2C of the AIL, like they're not getting it easy as well, and Tullamore aren't getting it easy. Like it's all cyclical. Carlow had their day in AIL and it came back down, and now Carlow are back up to where they probably should be as well. So it takes time. And I mean, I saw a study there that the Munster Rugby are doing on the difficulties of getting players through from youth rugby into adult rugby, and I think I saw it on the Waterpark Facebook page. Only 8% of players in the Munster region are getting through to adult rugby. So it makes it very, very difficult from what we're doing at youth level to make sure that we're putting in all that work down there to get a turnaround of 8%. It's a bit of a kick in the stones, And like Dave O'Connor made a statistic to me the other night that 15 members of the Kilkenny squad at the moment did not play youth rugby with the club. So you'd have to question what we're doing at youth rugby. And Tom made a comment very early, very, very early when we started doing this podcast was, who are we producing players for? Are we producing players for ourselves, or are we producing players for senior clubs?
Yep.
Hopefully for us.
Yeah, but we're after losing two under 18s, 3 under 18 players. Donald Keeley, who would have been Leinster Youths 2 years ago, has signed to play under 20s with Clontarf. No issue with that. We'd love if he'd stay playing dual status with us. Hugh Graney is another one who was Leinster Youth hooker last year. He's gone playing under 20s with Lansdowne. You don't mind that. Will they come back to the club eventually? They will, but it's hard to take as well. But you can understand why young lads and young girls want to do it.
I suppose college is harder now in the fact that they're going further afield, and like once they go to, like, we've lost a couple of players, but they're in Galway and and Limerick, and it's just very hard for anyone else. Galway's out of the question for someone to come home. Even they don't come home every weekend, and they tend to, like, being honest, anyone's over there, we can tell them to go and play their 20s and enjoy it, and try and keep them in rugby, keep their mind in rugby. But some of them will be under pressure because they play football as well. Might play up football over there. Like, it's very hard to turn around players. I think sometimes, especially with colleges and traveling and people working that weekend, shift work. I think life has changed as well. I think it's kids are they're studying. They're either going abroad as early as they can. They're going, they're taking as soon as they finish college, they're either going abroad for a couple of years. Hopefully, you might get them back after that. They're going traveling if they can, or they're going into jobs that they're in shift. A lot of them are going into shift work. So it's not easy anymore to retain players.
No, certainly not.
No, that 8% figure, James, is staggering, really, isn't it?
I think that's what it was. No, I'm just going to send it to you in the WhatsApp.
I'd hope in Leinster we have more than 8%.
Yeah, the stark figures are stark. 8% of rugby players who play under 18.5s or 19 club and schools rugby are not playing adult rugby 5 years after leaving school. 12% are playing 3 years after.
I'd say Leinster's no better, Tom, because it often struck me, even ourselves had thirds and fourths out years ago, and it's unheard of now. The big Dublin clubs used to have 8 and 9 teams out, and they now have 3 or 4 teams out. So I think the rate of loss is higher than it was before.
Well, you're right, Paddy, because when I came back as an adult player, when I started first as an adult player in Carlow, there was 5 senior teams.
See? Yeah.
But interestingly, what they've done in Munster is I've just noticed it there this morning, is that they've created a regional under 20s league where clubs are combining. So you might have 2 clubs coming together to play an under 20s league. So say you have Waterpark and Dungarvan and Carrick-on-Suir coming together to put an under 20s team together. You might have someone else. You might have Middleton Youghal and another team coming together. And maybe that's a solution. I don't know, but I find it very, very hard and a bit of a sickener when you look at the great work coaches are doing, that we're just not getting them through. And there was a great point made the other day in Kilkenny. There's a little bit of an issue that if you're a good rugby player, you tend to be a good hurler, and they're stepping away from hurling. They're stepping away from rugby to focus on hurling. But in Cork, you look at Ben O'Connor. He won an under 21 All Ireland with Cork 2 years ago. He was able to play his underage rugby the whole way along, while also playing a high level of hurling at intercounty level with Cork. So I don't take the opinion that you have to just focus on minor hurling. It's you're able to do 2 of them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. No, it's good to bring up these issues, lads, and bring them up, because they're issues seen, like as you can see from listening to the fellas. They're in all clubs and junior clubs and that besides, but they're important to discuss and keep it on a discussion platform as well. Tom, you didn't have any luck with the first seeder at the weekend. Your old friends Wicklow, you took on them at the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, so look, I'll go at the first team first. Yeah, we started off really well. Started off in a positive manner. We scored a try early on from John Lyons. And got the conversion 7-0. Then we got another penalty, and we were 10-0 up. And then there was a complete shift in. We gave a simple try away to them. About midway through the first half, and they scored. They cut up along the wing, and then they went right in under the post, and so they're 10-7. Then we lost in the game. We lost 3 players, and 2 of them. One was Dave Mack in the centre. Dave McDermott in the centre went off early enough. He pulled his hamstring, and we had to shift around, which didn't help. And Wes Shirley went off. Wes went off with an ankle injury, and Paddy Rogers scrummaging in the second half with his shoulder. So we can't afford those injuries, and they're especially with Dave being in the centre, because he's a very good attacking player, but also very strong defender. And but that was an excuse. The pack didn't probably front up as much as they normally would front up. Some players were a bit flat. Errors and our own errors probably caused most. Look, I have to say Wicklow were a good side. They're not an exceptional side, or they're not a side that you would look and go, wow, this, they're playing stunning rugby. They have very simple game plan, and they do it extremely well. They execute it well, and as soon as they got their tails up against us, that was it. We never came back from that. But I'm not too worried in a sense at this stage, that because we're still feeling that. They probably lost the scrum half is a huge one for us, because we didn't have a whole lot of extra scrum halves coming through in the club, and the loss of Noah Cope was a big one for us, and we're kind of adjusting to that. And I suppose when you have a really good combination of Dan and Noah for the season last year, when you don't have that consistency the start of the season, when you're playing up a level, it's kind of tough. But I think we need to just regroup this week. Like, as I say, like, the pack probably didn't front as much as they normally would have. I don't know what it was. They seemed to be a little bit flat. Yeah, Wes, when he was on, was good in the line out. The pack, the front row, we scrummaged well. We're probably a bit unfortunate. We got a couple of scrum penalties against us, which we were scratching our heads for. And like, I have to say, the referee was excellent on the day. He was probably one of the best referees, or probably the best referee we had all season so far. But there was a couple of scrum penalties he gave to Wicklow that we felt that they were after whipping around, and then they said we're going inside, but very, very harsh and very, very tight in that sense. And like, the front row were like with Paddy Rogers, Evan Gordon, Ross Byrne, and then Larry McGrath when he come on, and Scott Neal. Like, there was no different. The pack played as a scrummaging unit. They were solid. They were probably the stronger scrummaging team. As I say, we got a couple of unfortunate penalties, but like, our lineups were reasonably good. Probably some of our decision making was a bit poor, but they're all. There was nothing, like, if we looked at it as a whole. I'm not being, as James even said, but his own team. You're not being negative. You're trying to figure out why you're kind of. I would say we were probably more flat and a bit anxious. And I think when you've lost a couple of games after having a really good season, sometimes it's very hard to kind of get back on track. And I think we will get back on track. Like, I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. When we've got the derby is the derby this weekend. It's to be playing Tullow. It's a totally different kettle of fish to any other game, because we know each other so well. We know the players. like when you're going up against the Wicklow's, we haven't played Wicklow in 2 seasons. We haven't played them in a full season. We haven't played Bective in years. We haven't played Sea Point in years. We haven't played all those teams. You're coming up against an unknown entity. So this weekend is a different weekend. I think both teams there's going to be one winner here, or on the mad outcome of a draw, someone will get a draw, but there'll be one winner amongst the 3 of us here definitely next week. So it's a different kettle of fish. We probably needed that. I think both sides, to be honest, both sides need that. I think Tullow needed, Carlow needed. We need to come back and probably regroup ourselves and see where we're actually at. And I think sometimes derbies are a good thing because you kind of get back into it, and the pack will play that bit harder. Both sides will. There's a bit more hunger, and you're probably a bit more comfortable in the situation. Like you're going to the Black Gates, we're so used to. We're all in and out of the Black Gates every season. We play there at some stage, so
you know each other so well.
Yeah, no. And you feel comfortable in your own skin going over. You know what you have to do, and you perform. As I said, we've had ding-dong battles over the last while. Haven't probably come out on the wrong end of it, but we're still happy with those. Anytime we've played, we've kind of felt we know where we are in the season. We know what we have to do. So look, we're looking forward to this weekend with the first team. You have to say, you can't say you're not looking forward to it. It's a local derby. You're only travelling across the road. So you're home from home now at this stage with the amount of games. Well, I feel it is. I'm over there every week as well. So it doesn't feel like anything anymore. You're just travelling across, and it'll be a good day out, and people enjoy it, and there'll be plenty of pints had and everything afterwards. But look, it'd be nicer if we were in a better situation. We had a couple of pints on board, but we don't, and that's life. And we'll just have to get on with it. You're never in a hole. There's a hole. We've only played 3 games. Like there's a whole season ahead of us, so there's not a lot of worry. If it said to me this, we're talking this at the end, still talking the end of January or February, well then we'd be worried. But I mean, it's a long season to go yet, and hopefully the without injury, we get them back as soon as possible. We'll go on to the second.
I'd love to wish you the best of luck, Tom, but I just can't go that far.
Well, we can, Paddy. Well, we can wish ourselves. We can give ourselves a wish.
Okay.
We have thanks in the bar after.
Okay.
The seconds had a great win against Wicklow. It was absolute cracking game. That's all. The other thing is, sorry, I should say, but it was a really, really strong breeze coming down the field. So the seconds actually got to look at the green. The seconds got to play with the wind in the second half, whereas we were just unfortunate to have to turn around. The first had to turn around and play into a very, very strong wind in the second half. But the lads were just they had an absolute cracking game. The pack, the handling, the skills. I have to mention Dara Brennan. He's a young lad. We talk about players coming through. Like Dara played under. I actually helped coach him underage. He very raw, has come through, and in the last season has really kind of his handling has become so much better. His scrummaging has become so much better, and he's a solid starter in that second team. And if he keeps going where it is, I nearly could say, give him a couple of more years of proper, you wouldn't be too far off playing first team. They had a good second row combination with Massey Whitney, Sheen Hart, good engine there. The back row were outstanding. Danny Carpenter, Reece Edgell, and Johnny Murphy. Johnny's only back from injury. He normally would be should have been probably starting there thereabouts on the first team. So those two, Reece had he's only back from New Zealand and Australia, and hadn't played rugby in a long time, but he's every game was getting better and better and better. Backs again were the centre combination with Ian Atkinson and Aaron Gordon was super. Any of the subs that came on, Tommy McDonald came on at scrum half, had a good game. This is his first game back after playing football for the summer. Second, just had I have to say, after watching, I could see the whole second half of it, and they had a really outstanding game against a very good Wicklow side who've had a couple of good wins under their belt. But I have to say, look, it was a really good team on paper, and they played that way. They played with spirit, and and they used the wind well in the second half. So. Look, the second's out. Hopefully, they'll have another ding dong against Tullow at the weekend. So they're looking forward to that as well. Our youth, that was a real. Sorry, now I need to get it back up. The youth had a kind of mixed bag. The under 14 Rhinos. The Rhinos. They lost a week though. The 16s lost to Tullamore. And the under 18s, the under 18 girls had a loss to New Ross. They probably shouldn't have that. They should have won that game. They started off really well. Tries. Megan Doyle got 2 tries. Chloe Crotty got a try. It was 19 all at half time. Then we went ahead in the second half, and it was what we went on to 29. It went 29. 29. I think it was 29 something at in the second half. We got tries from Molly Sheridan and Lily Murphy scored tries in the second half, but we leaked 3 tries in a row, and Ross got in for 3 tries. Bang, 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 and suddenly they were 30. They were 35. They got up to 35, and the score we ended up 35-29 at the end. And so leaking those tries, I know Kira, but we spoke about Kira afterwards. I actually wasn't there for the game, and I'm sure Kira wasn't too happy. She's a very good defensive coach, and really believes in our defense has always been good. So we'll have a little bit of work to do tonight in the club and try and sort out that. But they're still ravaged with injuries. I think we've still 9 injuries there. So look, the 18 girls will come back. The boys, we had won 2 out of the 5. Our under 14 boys lost to New Ross. Our under 16 or under 15 boys had a good win over West Offaly Lions 37-7, and our under 18s lost 20-32 to a good Athy side. They were probably definitely a little bit stronger than us on the day, but it's positive enough. There's still a good lot of 18s playing. A lot of the younger 16s that came up last year are getting a chance of playing up on the actual starting team. So look, that 18s team will travel well, and they'll travel well as the season goes on. They'll improve. The under 16s lost against a very, very strong in the Scorty side. The man of the match there from Carlow was Ali Walsh, to give him a mention. Our under 13s have to give them a big mention this week because they had a massive win over Wicklow. They beat Wicklow 27-0 with tries from Daniel Chambers, Ross Hutton, Reuben Blake, and Senna Fitzpatrick. And the player of the game was Fintan Gardner with Sean Comfort and Fiacco Murder. Give a special mention out to them. And that's really it from our club point of view. No women's this week. Women's are not out again till I think it's next weekend, or I think it could be next weekend they're out again. But no, happy enough heading back into that. And just wanted to give a special mention out to the Irishmans who sponsored the men's seniors. The men's seniors teams, the first and seconds, just want the jerseys and stuff for them. So. And look after us well when we go down for a few pints after the club closes. So, mention to them this week. That's really it from us.
Good stuff, Tom.
Matt.
Good stuff. That's it. Bit of work on for a couple of clubs this weekend, but I think everyone's looking forward to that derby match, and Yeah. You're saying, Paddy, 3 matches down in the Black Eights now on Saturday.
You're on.
You're muted there.
Yeah, sorry. I said, yeah. I was saying from 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. So it's wall to wall rugby, and hopefully the crowd and the weather will measure up.
Absolutely. And Kenny hosting Boyne as well. So you don't have to travel too far, James.
This is it. Yeah. I might go up to Tullow on Saturday for a look. As a neutral, and come back next week with some neutral findings, But unfortunately, I'm actually not going to make our own match this week because the intermediate county final is on in Kilkenny, and the parish that I'm residing in are in it, in Goran, proud Thomastown man, of course. But my young fella's actually hurling at half time.
Oh, brilliant!
Very
So
good.
I have to bring him into it. So so I'm actually going to miss my own match. And being a proud Thomastown man, we qualified for the county senior final last weekend ourselves. So
I saw that.
Very
That's
good.
the first
Very
time
good.
in 19. Was it? How many years?
last time we won it was back in the 40s, but it's our first time qualifying for it since 1988. Now
Wow.
I have to hand it to the lads. Like, I'm not involved with the club much, but to win the intermediate championship last year and to come up and be in a senior county final is a fair achievement. So
Sure is.
In Kilkenny, Jesus, the intermediate, Jesus, it's ridiculous hard. It's hard to get out and hard to get back into.
Yeah, but look,
Yeah,
I mean,
I was talking to a few fellas there on Monday. Said they were looking forward to that county final, but they were all from other parts. They were all from the village. Uncle died there. Mick Crotty. Mick was buried on Monday.
That's right. He was your uncle, was he?
Yeah, he's but he'd 4 All-Irelands. 4 All-Irelands and an All-Star. I think he 2 All-Ireland club medals as well. But he had one record. He's the only person that has 2 county medals, 2 county club championship medals for 2 different counties in the 1 year, in the 1 season.
Oh.
There you go. He played for UCC in the Cork. He was in UCC at the time, and he played at the time he could. He played in the Cork County final, and they won that. And then he went back and played with the village, and they won the Kilkenny championship that year.
How bad?
I was going to just pass on our condolences, actually, because his kids played rugby. Paddy and Mick both played rugby with the club as well, and his son-in-law Bill O'Keefe was heavily involved with the club too. So.
Yeah, no, it's geez, I've never seen it. It's a mad funeral. we went up on Sunday just to call to the house, and I thought it'd be a normal funeral, going to the family thing. You go up, knock on the door, and say hello, and in you go. We were waiting for an hour outside the house to get in.
Wow.
Yeah. So
huge respect.
All the mad hurling crowd.
That's it. But look at lads like me are able to balance both of them, hurling and rugby. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like to see you. I wouldn't like to see you with a hurler or your brother with a hurler in the hand. That'd be dangerous.
Tom.
Bad enough with a pair of rugby boots, and especially your older brother. I have very sore ribs because of that chap. And we were friends.
There's history here, lads.
Look, we all had to hurl, we all had to rugby. You're able for them all. As I said earlier on, not a party political podcast, but I don't believe that kids should be pulled away from rugby because they're focusing on hurling. I think they should be well able to balance both. Ben O'Connor in Cork has a prime example.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's good stuff. Lads,
signing off, and hopefully we have better news next week.
100%. Go well, fellas, and we'll chat to you next week. Thanks for joining us on the knock on for this week.
Keep everyone happy.
We'll have one winner next weekend, possibly not actually, like you said, if there's a draw, but sure, we'll see. Best of luck, everyone. Have a good one.
Okay,
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.